I want to go through and talk about, let me erase this. I want to talk about a few terms in Aquinas' metaphysics that are strange, uncommon, not the kind of thing that we're used to talking about, especially in this way. And this kind of goes through the podcast that I linked up on D2L on Monday. Did everyone have a chance to listen to that? Anyone not? Great. So did it make sense? Were you able to kind of wrap your minds around all the concepts being laid out? Well enough, okay. Well, I'm still going to go back through all of them. So the distinctions that our Australian podcaster, Matt Fry, brings up are essence, and existence, being fits underneath this, so I'm not going to add that separately. Potency, act, and motion. And linear versus hierarchical causal series. Okay. Someone explain to me, what is the difference between something's essence and its existence? Sure.
Its essence is kind of its spiritual presence. Its existence is kind of its physical body.
Not necessarily. This has an essence. It's a candle. Its essence is a candle. So it doesn't necessarily need to be something spiritual or even to have any spiritual qualities per se to have an essence. The simplest way of putting it is something's essence is what it is. Something's existence is that it is, or that it exists. Let's go back to our example we were using last week. What's the difference?
That's a real pipe.
Right.
That's just a picture.
That's a picture of a pipe. This is a real pipe. How do you explain that in terms of essence and existence?
In essence, they're both pipes,
Right?
but only the pipe in your hand has the existence of a pipe.
Right. They share an essence. They have the same essence. They both have the essence of a pipe. A brighter pipe in both cases. Okay. This one has existence as well as essence. That one only has essence but no existence. So you can have one or the other, or both. In other words, something imaginary, something that's just an idea or just a hypothetical, can have an essence. Right? So the example that Matt used in the podcast, unicorns have an essence. Right? They're a horse-like creature with a horn, maybe magical. That's an essence. That's what they are. What differentiates unicorns from horses or rhinoceroses, for example, is that horses and rhinoceroses also have existence. So what differentiates a real unicorn from the kind of everyday unicorns that you encounter, in other words, imaginary ones. Not to imply hallucinations or anything. In books, whatever. So the difference between these two is that something can have an essence but not exist. Right? You can describe something. You can describe what something is, even if it's just hypothetical, even if it's just an idea, even if it's imaginary. So it can still have an essence, but only once it's real does it have existence. So something else I had. This, even this, has some measure of existence. It has some small amount of existence. Right? It exists as an image, as a picture, Otherwise, it wouldn't be there, right? It would just be that. If I said there's a pipe that does not exist there, well, yeah, true. Now, though, it exists just slightly. So it's important to note that things can exist to varying degrees. This comes back to our discussion about the sandwich. Right? So a sandwich exists more as it's a better sandwich, as it's more real, as it does sandwichy things better. This exists more than that because it can do pipey things more than that can. You could smoke this, not that. It's material, you can touch it. It exists.
So we've been talking about like if something has essence, but you said that you could have either or.
Mm-hmm.
How would something have existence but not in essence?
Good question. So let's see if we can figure it out. So let's make it sharp. Okay, so if something has both existence and essence, what's that called?
Being.
Yes, it's a being, a real thing. A being is something that has both existence and essence. It's something that has an essence and it really exists. Okay. What about something that has neither?
Nothing.
It's nothing, right? It's nothing. Or it's a contradiction. A square circle has neither existence nor essence. A triangle with 5 sides has neither existence nor essence. Right? Saying those words is not actually describing anything, because it can't exist. Not only doesn't it exist, but it has no essence to exist at all. There's no essence to add existence to, so to speak. Right? Okay, so what about if something has essence but no existence?
Idea?
Yeah, it's an idea, it's imaginary. An idea, or it's not real. Okay, so what if something has existence but not essence? Any thoughts? Maybe, kind of.
Is it?
Maybe it
Maybe, kind of.
exists in the mind, but exists in the mind.
Well, hold on. If it exists in the mind, presumably, if you can think of anything, you're thinking of something with an essence to it. It's got some identity that differentiates it from other things. So I kind of say God, but I'm going to surround it with question marks, and I'm going to say kinda. Because only in a particular way, and only if you mean something very specific here, because for Aquinas, it's not that God has no essence, but rather it's that for God, existence is God's essence. This is why we hear Aquinas say things like God is being itself, or subsistent being.
Wouldn't a thing that has existence but not essence be something of an imposter as well? Because
I mean-
you exist, but you don't have that particular essence.
Presumably you'd have some kind of essence if you're an imposter, right? So you'd have some essence, but you'd appear as if you have a different essence or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to like dress up as you and like dye my hair and wear my glasses and pretend to be you, right?
Right,
Essentially, I'd still be me.
right.
I would exist still as me, but I would be like trying to make everybody think that I'm you. maybe not to very much success, but maybe.
Being that we don't really know what God looks like, is that why he doesn't have essence?
Well, so let me clarify. It's not necessarily, again, it's not quite that God doesn't have essence, but that his essence is undefinable in an important sense.
So we don't know the true essence.
Right, because we can't. Because we're finite, like you said, and God is not just infinite, but infinity itself. Being, undifferentiated being. So we'll get a little more of this as we go through Aquinas' 5 ways, but what I mean to point out here, especially with respect to theology and with respect to God, is that for God, at their utmost in the true infinite, essence and existence come together. They're one thing. Yeah.
So would Satan fall under that category?
Oh, no, not at all. Satan would be like any other immaterial substance. Would have an essence, would have existence, but would have a certain different kind of existence than material things. Angels, including Satan and including the devils, right, the fallen angels, exist, but as immaterial things. Things that aren't instantiated in a particular bit of matter, but are instantiated in a different way. It's a good example. It's a difficult example, but it's a good example. The medievals actually tended to use angels in their thought experiments to try and figure out aspects of especially psychology, because an angel is a pure mind. There's no material to get in the way of the thought experiment, so to speak. Right? So it's simpler, if nothing else. So God, in this unique way, is what Aquinas will call substantial or subsistent being. So being that doesn't depend on a particular differentiation or a particular essence, is that sort of thing. Okay. Questions so far? Any other questions? All right. So, I'm going to erase this. Everybody got this? Cool. All right, so next thing I want to go over is motion. Okay, what does Aquinas mean by motion? Not in the sense we might mean it, right? So yeah, this counts as motion. But a lot of other things also count as motion. That's not it. It's not the only thing that counts as something moving. Mm-hmm.
Is it like how things like work out? Isn't that how they literally move, or how they move around, like the move, like the motion of whatever happened?
You're on the right track, right? So motion, if we're putting it as simply as possible, motion means something like change, right? So something going from one state to another. What we refer to as motion typically is local motion or locomotion, right? I change from being over here to being over here by moving, right? But at the same time, we can also move, for instance, the lights. Yeah. Right.
Have the lights ever been on in this class?
No, I've never turned them on before. I'm going to turn it off once I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
So just like,
No.
just messed up in there.
Also, I'm going to be lighting fires. So anyway, right, so, or maybe so if something changes, this is what Aquinas means by it's moving, right? Moving from one state to another. In the case of the lights, they moved from the state of being off to the state of being on, back to the state of being off. Another way of describing this motion or this change is what he calls the reduction of potency to act. Or the reduction of potentiality, or potential, to actual. For instance, right now the lights are potentially, but not actually on. So they could be on, but they aren't. Right? The candle could be lit, but it isn't. Going to flip the switch would move the lights from being potentially on to actually on. Lighting the candle would move it from being potentially lit to actually lit. Moving my feet will change me from being potentially over there to actually over there. Right?
So
Yeah.
all three have to be together in order to create something.
Yeah, for anything to move, there has to be some potentiality in it. Some potentiality to become actual.
So there's always potentiality?
In anything finite, at least, right? For anything that could be different, there is some potential there, right? So if something could not possibly be different, there's no potential.
Like what?
God.
Then is it
Or
actual?
also, necessary truths, right? Things that are necessarily true could not potentially be different. Laws of logic, yeah.
If it cannot potentially be different, is it just actual?
Yes, in that case it would be purely actual because it's not potentially anything different, right? The reason I have any potentiality is because I could be in all sorts of different ways, right? I could potentially be taller, I could potentially be shorter, I could potentially have different colored hair, I could potentially have longer or shorter hair, I could potentially be blind, I could potentially have much better vision than I already do, I could potentially be over there, over here, in this position, in that position, all sorts of things. And it's because of all of those potentialities that I am finite, right? I'm here, not there. I'm 6'1", not 5'8", and not 6'4". Right? There's all sorts of things that I'm not. This very rough circle is blue. It isn't red. Potentially red. In other words, I could have drawn it in a different way. I could have used a different marker for it. It could change to not being there. It's potentially erased. No, it's actually erased. So if I want to change something, if I want to actualize the potential in something, what do I need?
A drive.
How do you mean? So if I want to actualize the potential in something, if I want to change something, what do I need?
Motion.
How so?
An action.
I need an action. I need motion. So in other words, I need something that's already moving, kind of. Or rather, I need something that's already actual, right? In order for me to be over there, I need to, in order to actualize that potential, I need to first, for example, move my foot over there, gradually.
So
In order to write something black on the board, I need a marker that's already black.
So potency doesn't need motion, but for you to turn it to actual, it needs motion.
Yes. So to move from potency to act needs motion. That's what motion is.
The motion.
And it needs actuality. This is what Aquinas elsewhere calls, you're not going to read this part, but he also elsewhere calls the principle of proportionate causality.
Sounds like Newton's third law.
Kind of. It's related, but not quite. Newton's third law is, we might say, a particular application of this to a certain kind of motion, right? But it is very closely related. So I want to write this as specifically. Read it off here. Oh, come on, really? Don't do this to me. There. Whatever is in an effect, or in other words, the thing moved or the thing changed, must in some way be in its cause. Right. So if the color black is in the writing, then the color black must in some way be in the pen that wrote it. If I'm caused to be over there, I must in some way be over there, right? So in some way my will is already over there. That moves my foot gradually. And you can also say for each little individual motion of my leg, the tensing of my muscle is an action of, well, my muscle is already here, so it's moving my leg to where it needs to be. So if something is moving, the thing moved is only moved by something that already has, or already has the quality that it's being actualized. Simple example. How do I light this? How do I light that candle? If I want to actualize the potential of this candle being lit, how do I do it?
Actualize the
Use
potential
something
of
that's
the
already
light.
lit.
What's that?
Actualize the potential of the light.
Okay, how? What if I don't have it? Or let me ask it maybe differently. Why do I need a lighter?
You could use like matches or
I
something.
could. So why do I need a match or matches? Why do I need a lighter? Why?
Because you need something that already has the property of fire.
I need something on fire, right? Okay, so I have matches. So this isn't on fire.
There's something
When you
else.
How do I like this?
When you strike it.
Use your
Okay, what happens when I strike it?
It lights.
friction.
Okay, how? What's the process? Friction does it. What's going on?
Friction does it.
Emulsion.
Yeah, so the friction between the silicate in the striker
The phosphate.
and the phosphorus, the white phosphorus here and the red phosphorus here, does a chemical reaction. The heat, which is essentially the same thing as fire, actualizes the potential of this to be on fire. Right? And that, that's not how it go out. These are awful matches. There we go. That can actualize the potential of the candle. Maybe. Come on now, really? Is this what is going on?
It's a
Still
rebel.
goes.
There it is.
Rebel candle.
There we go. Candle's lit. So I've actualized the potential of the candle to be on fire using something that was already actually on fire. How do I actualize this? Do I make this on fire? Well,
Using something that already has the property of fire.
yeah, something that has heat, which is essentially the same as fire. Causes the chemicals to produce actual flame from heat. Right? This is getting into, physics and chemistry. A little, not a lot, because again, my expertise in physics and chemistry is almost non-existent. But in any case, right, so you need to be able to, in order to be able to make something actual, you need something else that's already actually that. In other words, in order to make this be actually on fire, I need something that's already on fire. In order to make the match be on fire, I need something that's already hot. How do I make something hot? Well, motion and heat, we know now. Aquinas didn't know this. He would have been fascinated by this, I suspect. Motion and heat wind up being a very similar kind of energy. So, how did I light it? How did I light the match? Well, I was moving. I was imparting energy to this. How did I do that? There's energy in my hand. This is already moving. This actually has the energy required to actualize the potential in the match, which then does that. For any given thing to be caused, the thing that causes it needs to already have whatever quality we're trying to actualize. Questions so far? Okay. Last distinction. We have 5 minutes. I think we can go through this. Linear and hierarchical causal series. So these are two very importantly different kinds of causal series. So one thing causing the next, causing the next. So a linear series or also called an accidentally ordered series. Contrasted with a hierarchical or essentially ordered. A linear series is, the best example is, say, think of a set of dominoes. You knocked over the first domino, knocked over the next, you knocked over the next, knocked over the next. While they're still cascading, you can pick up, remove the first domino, and they're not going to stop, right? Another example, I lit the candle. What happened to the match?
It went out.
It went out, I threw it away, it's gone, right? It's not on fire still, it doesn't need to be for this to stay going, right? So each subsequent effect in a linear or accidentally ordered causal series, each subsequent effect doesn't rely on its previous cause to continue being, right? I lit the candle, it stays lit. I blow out the candle, it's not lit, right? I acted, I caused this to change. I don't need to act anymore to maintain the change. Distinguish that from an essentially ordered causal series. Why is this top cup where it is? What's causing that to be where it is? Two bottom cups. So, well, two things. Well, one, you can talk about a linear cause, a linear series. It's an accidentally ordered series. I put it there. I don't have to continue acting. An essentially ordered series is this cup is causing this cup to be where it is. If I remove it, it's going to go somewhere else.
What is,
Yeah. Good.
what is linear about this?
Linear is I put it here, right? I am the previous cause in the linear series that made this be here. The essentially ordered series, or the hierarchical cause, is this cup and this cup are causing this to be where it is.
Not really.
Okay. Well, we got 2 minutes. I can try again. So, for example, let's do this again. I turn the lights on. I know, sorry. Why are the lights on? I turn them on, right? That's a linear causal series. Why else are the lights on?
Because the switch is flipped.
Electricity.
Yeah, the switch is flipped, electricity is going to them. If anything were changed in that, if anything were changed or interrupted in that hierarchical causal series, the lights would turn out. Right? So if there were like a fluctuation in power, right, the power were to go out, the power would be no longer causing the lights to be on, so the lights would turn off. In a hierarchical causal series, each antecedent cause, each cause before it in a causal series, needs to be acting here and now in the way that it is for the ultimate effect to be occurring. Yeah.
But in one action, there's both, right?
Yeah. There's both. Oh, so maybe the best example. Has anyone played Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time way back? Okay. Or a lot of video games have this trope. So when you beat the final boss, so in that case, when you beat Ganondorf, what happens? As soon as you beat him, what happens? The castle collapses.
Oh, yeah.
The big boss in a lot of, especially like 80s and 90s video games, the big boss is essentially ordered to the structural stability of their boss's lair. So if you get rid of the boss, things collapse. Just like if you get rid of the top collapses.